When I was younger, I spent 10 years in the Middle East. First in Doha, then in Dubai. By the end, I was living in a place called Sustainable City, and that was my world. It was my neighborhood. There was my school. The roads were lined with date trees. In the spring, parrots flew around, and in the winter, ducks swam in the pond. There were no roads, so we would bike around. It felt, there were, sorry, I'm messing up. There were green lawns, sprinklers, and walking paths. It felt lush, calm, and full of life. It was easy to forget where we were because it didn't match the picture most people have of the desert. And because that was my life, water felt completely normal. We had pools. There were fountains. At school, sprinklers watered the fields. Water was just part of daily life, and I didn't notice the contradiction. But if you zoomed out, or even just crossed the street, everything changed. Beyond my little neighborhood was the desert. Oh, sorry. Wait, it's going back to lunch. Oh, thank you. It was mostly sand and rocks, miles of it, and no natural fresh water, no rivers, very little rain. I remember one time, after more than a year without rain, it finally poured. A group of my friends and I ran outside in our regular clothes. We found cardboard boxes and pretended we were sailing boats in the rain. We were laughing, jumping, completely soaked, and loving it. We were so excited because rain was rare, so it felt amazing. At the time, none of this seemed unusual to me. But now when I look back, that is exactly what feels strange. How could water feel so normal in a place where it is actually so scarce? I didn't notice this when I lived there. That's the thing. When it all works, you can't see the underlying structure. In Dubai, when it would rain, you might think that in a desert, it would feel like relief. Sometimes it did, but most of the time it created chaos. Roads would fill, and buildings leaked. Underpasses would fill with water. Cars would get stranded, and people had to sometimes climb on top of their cars while they waited for help. At school, we didn't get snow days like kids here. We got rain days. Parents would be told to come pick us up early. As a kid, it was fun. But I think most people here would think that was a bit dramatic. It was only rain. But Dubai was built for heat and dryness, not for rain. There were no gutters on our houses, and drainage was limited. It just simply didn't seem necessary. If rain was so rare, then why build an entire system for it? But over the years, it started to rain more. Dubai uses cloud seeding. They would fly planes into the clouds that would release tiny particles to try and make it rain more often. The goal is to create more fresh water in a place where rain is rare. But that also meant the city had to deal with water in new ways, in ways it wasn't prepared to handle. That made me wonder, where was all the water in Dubai actually coming from? Most of Dubai's water doesn't come from rain or rivers. It comes from the sea. Dubai sits right next to the ocean. The city takes seawater, turns it into fresh water through a process called desalination. There are huge desalination plants, miles of pipes, and enormous amounts of energy moving water across the city. Every day, seawater has to be pumped in, cleaned, filtered, treated, and sent through infrastructure that I've never seen. And when those systems work well, they seem invisible. Water comes out the tap, sprinklers turn on, fountains flow, everything feels normal, until it doesn't. About a month ago, something like that happened here. A water main broke where we live, and I don't know about you, but suddenly, water stopped feeling ordinary. Something that usually stays in the background was the first thing everyone was talking about. We were boiling snow, checking in with neighbors, buying water, and trading strategies. We were talking about water in ways we normally never do, and it made me realize that we depend on these systems every day, but we usually only see them when they break. And when they do, even briefly, we realize how much of our lives depend on them. I started with a childhood memory, and I'm ending with a changed way of seeing. I used to think water was just there. Now I know better. I know it depends on systems, energy, maintenance, and decisions that I've never seen. And the more I think about it, the more questions I have. What does it take to make water feel ordinary? What happens when those systems fail? And who gets to feel that kind of ordinary in the first place? Thank you.